following is a production of Medfield TV.
Hello Medfield, thanks for watching Medfield TV, and our guest today, I think you've all seen, is Mike Sullivan. In one more month or so he will be leaving the job in Medfield Town Hall, but he said he's just going to come back and talk to us about other things afterward. But in the meantime, we've got one more month, the rest of December, and then most of January to put up with Mike, and he's going to let us know what's going on in Town Hall. But we thought first we would talk about the death of our recently retired police chief, Bill Mann, who was one of my favorite people in the town. Mike, you felt the same way?
He had many people that have moved to town lately probably might not even know Bill Mann because he's been retired for 26 years.
Been a long time.
Police firemen have to retire at 65 as the mandatory retirement age. So, and he, in November, just turned 91. So he was a great guy. He avid sports fan. He never missed a Medfield football game or basketball game.
He went to the soccer games. He'd know the kids. It was wonderful.
And they all knew him. The good kids and the bad kids, they all knew Bill. So,
but he knew the kids by name.
Yes, yes.
He'd pass by one of my kids and say, "Hey, good game last week," or "Oh, we should have had one more goal," or whatever. It was wonderful. He really knew the kids.
You'll never get someone like that. Well, although Bob Meany was
good.
Very good, yeah. He knew the kids and knew the parents, and because he went to high school here himself. And but Bill Mann was certainly, he used to throw a barbecue every year, and of course Elizabeth is German, and she had several German friends, and they would be there, and it was fascinating listening to them. And Bill would be on the grill. He used to get these great steaks every year.
Absolutely.
But they fed you so many appetizers and food beforehand when you got to the steaks that they had cheeseburgers and hot dogs and everything. And it was a great time, fascinating people to listen to, and because they would talk about their life experiences, and that's what really is most interesting about people, to hear about their life experiences.
Absolutely.
So.
And Elizabeth had quite a good life experience herself, because they met in Germany when Bill was there at the end of the war.
Yes.
And that's how they met. And this lovely young German lady whose brother had died in the war still came over to the United States. And I still remember we interviewed her. That interview is available someplace, probably on YouTube. But she talked about what it was like coming over here, not speaking English.
It would be a great subject for a movie. You know, her brothers were German soldiers. She married an American soldier and came here. Yes, yeah. So she's really they both have had very interesting lives.
And they're both good people.
Yes, yeah.
Now, Elizabeth was a crossing guard for a long time, as probably most of you know, and she would call just about every kid by name within a week or two after school started. She would know Bill, Joe, Bill, Mary, whoever. She would know everybody. And
come hell or high water, she would not be at her post in the morning. It was her duty if there was snow, rain, sleet, hail. Elizabeth was there.
Always.
And if you tried to cut in line, if you were driving a car and tried to cut in line to beat the traffic, you would hear about it.
Yes, you certainly would.
If you took the wrong driveway out where they had a one-way system.
Yeah.
In fact, somebody told me that one time she stopped one of the guys that was actors in MASH. His niece or nephew or something went to Medfield High School, and I heard that he was tried to go in the driveway the wrong way, and she would have none of it. I don't know if she knew who he was, probably not, but the other interesting thing about Bill and Elizabeth for years were Mr. and Mrs. Claus.
I know they were.
And I understand the parade last Saturday went by their house, so kind of a sad event, but and, you know, Bill, I think, was very well prepared to go, and the family had accepted it, so.
Yeah.
But it's still a loss. He's just a real town, not a character, but a real town citizen, I guess would be the best way to describe him. He loved the town and cared deeply about it.
I first
And
met
he'll be
him.
missed.
I first met him over almost 55 years ago. He joined a jogging group which had just started. They now call it the Medfield Fitness Association, but it was always the jogging group for years. And my husband was a member, and that's how I first met Bill Mann. And I talked to several of the joggers the other day and seen their memories of him. They still remember how good a friend he was and how much fun he was to be with. They all appreciated him.
Well, and you and he taught the EMT, no, the CPR for years.
Yeah, well, I was an EMT and Bill was too, and we had
Yes.
some ambulance calls together, but we had one wedding at the Legion years ago, and we were called, my husband and I were on EMT duty, and we got a call, but the person had already been breathless and with no pulse for about 10, 15 minutes, and we found out later nobody knew to call 911. So my husband and I got together with Bill Mann, and my friend Joan Kiesling, and then Bob Curry, who was one of my favorite EMTs, and we started teaching CPR. And Bill and I continued it for 30 years without, the only thing we charged for was the cost of our disinfectants and stuff, and the new lungs for the dummies, et cetera. So we always laughed and said how much money we could have made. $1 a head, we would have been rich with all the people in 30 years.
Well, and I understand they named the dummy after you.
I am the dummy.
Recessa Annie?
That's what they call him. But I do have, to show you what kind of a man Bill Mann was. As I said, he knew a lot of the kids in town by name. And one day, Medfield had played Dover Sherburne in soccer. And if it was a home game, I always let my son, whichever one was playing that year, take my car to school, excuse me. And then I would walk to work because it wasn't that far. And I wanted my kids to have the advantage of the car to come back after the game. So my son had just come home and was in the shower, so thrilled with the victory. They beat Dover. And I got a call, Bill Mann, I just saw your son driving your car like a bat out of hell down Pine Street. And so I talked to Bill. Thank God my son was still in the shower. And I said, what can we do, Bill? And he said, well, let's talk about it. He said, how about if we say we have a wanted list? So when my son came out of the shower, I said, I hate to tell you this, but the chief saw you. And he said, oh, God, I'm afraid of that. And I said, you're on the wanted list. And he said, what's that? And I said, every place you go in my car, they're going to be looking for you. And they know you're a speeder. So it was when he was a sophomore in college, he asked me to call the chief and get him off the wanted list. And I told Bill Mann many times, I think he could have saved my son's life and his friend's life, because that really scared him. He was so afraid somebody was going to watch him and catch him. The best thing you could have done is call the mother and tell her, or the father. And I told him that after, and he said a lot of parents that he called didn't believe him. They'd say, not my son. And
yes,
you know my kids, I couldn't say not my son.
Oh, no, the apple didn't fall far from the tree?
Well, I wasn't a speeder, actually. My husband was. No, I didn't like speeding, but I thought it was such a good thing and such a personal touch, and that's what people like Bill Mann gave to the job in Medfield.
I understand occasionally there's a few parents that will go out and hire a lawyer to represent their
probably,
kids.
I know.
Yes,
I know, but I still think he really did a good job. I trusted him a lot.
Yes, he's going to be a big loss. There's a lot of people like that who really care deeply about the town and will be really missed. So. But it was interesting talking about teaching courses. I get a newsletter from Penn, where we both went to University of Pennsylvania, and it had an article in it about how they are working on developing a 8-minute video to teach people how to administer Narcan and what to do after the person's resuscitated. Because Narcan, for people that aren't familiar with it, it's the antidote for opioid addiction, overdose. Yeah. And it is now available to just about anyone, non-prescription. So a lot of people have bought it. The problem is they don't know how to use it. So they found out that they did a test. They divided groups in half, and they had half of them go to a training course to be instructed, and the other half they gave this 8-minute video, and the results were just about identical. So they were saying you could train far more people on the use of Narcan if they can get these videos accepted and out to people. So I'm going to send it to the police and fire chief. I think it's a away. It's still in the testing stage.
Because
but
then
it's-
Medfield TV could run it. All the other public TV stations could run it.
Yes,
It'd be a
yes.
great thing to have.
Or, I think it's cardboard, a little cardboard video thing, and the picture they had anyway. So I think it'll be very
That's interesting.
inexpensive. So, and I'm sure, things like Newtown or would be glad to supply funds for things like that.
How are
It's
how
certainly
are
a
our,
need.
are our overdoses getting worse or better? Do you know?
I think it's nationwide they're getting worse.
That I know, but I'm thinking it was.
I think it's.
I'm hoping better.
We don't always get the results. They're confidential, so
That's true,
I
too.
don't really know. I would say it's probably. I really don't know. I'd just be guessing. So, because I'm not privy to that,
Okay.
and I shouldn't be privy to that information.
Yeah.
So, but it's certainly a problem everywhere. And of course now we have the legalized recreational marijuana, and I saw on the news the woman that hit those 2 little girls.
Yeah.
She was on alcohol and something they make from hemp that's like that's like marijuana but not quite as strong, and opioids, I think. So
Jeez.
she was really messed up. But it's and people will say, well, that's alcohol is most of your traffic
I know it is.
fatalities, but they were saying that 10% of the fatalities in Massachusetts are a combination of the alcohol and marijuana.
Oh, really? Combination?
Yeah. So, and the problem right now is, you can test for alcohol. You can do a breathalyzer test
You
or
can't
whatnot.
test
You
it
can't
for
test.
pot, I know.
No. So.
It'll come though. I bet they'll find a way to test for it.
I saw an interesting article the other day too that it was on the news that kids now, they used to be able to catch kids that went to the restrooms for smoking in the restrooms because they could have smoke, they could smell the smoke in there. But they couldn't do that with the kids. Some of the kids now vape, I guess they call it, where it's like electronic, I know it's electronic cigarettes or what, but it's called vaping, I think.
Jeez.
And they had no way of detecting that, so some company in Long Island has come out with a vapor detector that they put in the restrooms, and if you,
Wow.
it sets off an alarm if somebody's in there vaping.
Oh, it does? Wow.
Yes, it'll set off an alarm in the principal's office or whatever, and so they can catch the kids vaping. So
Wow, that's scary. It's
Yeah.
scary that we need that kind of thing.
we do, yeah.
That is-
If only the kids, if only you could put an old head on young shoulders, as the saying goes, and let them know what happens down the road from too much smoking and
Yeah.
too much drug use and alcohol abuse and
Yeah.
everything else. So, but
It's awful.
we were all young and stupid once, so
Yeah, we didn't have as many temptations when I was a kid.
that's right. We were lucky. Yeah,
We
yeah.
were very much lucky.
We didn't think we were, but now we know.
Yeah.
Well, it's certainly been an interesting couple of weeks.
I guess it
We
has
had
been.
The,
What's up?
The stroll, the holiday stroll was,
That was-
a wonderful success. It was, the crowds were enormous, and they were running out of food. I don't know how the artisans did, but the food merchants certainly did a booming business. The pizza sold out, the hot dogs sold out. I don't know about the barbecue, because I came by that early and I never got back by there to see if they had run out of food. I was too cold by that
Yeah,
time.
it
so.
was a little chilly.
Yes. But it's still, there were plenty of places to warm up. As I said, I went down to see the tree lighting, and from there I went to Noon Hill Grill and had a cup of soup, warmed up. I thought I was going to warm up there, but I happened to get the seat next to the door out onto the deck.
Not
It
a
kept
good move.
opening, and then I went to Needham Bank and had cider there, and then I went to the United Church of Christ, and they had quite a show there, and I think that was a free cupcake. And then I tried to get a hot dog, but they were sold out. So I went to the library, and they had several artisans and whatnot in there, including Debbie Schumann with her bracelets.
I know, yeah, I know her.
She was trying to sell me a bracelet. I said, I don't wear jewelry. But it was, by that time I said, I got to get back to my car. It's cold, getting colder. So I never did get back to the barbecue guy.
It's a good time, though. It really is a good time.
It is.
People really love it, I think.
Yes, yeah. And there are so many families out with the young kids. They come early, and then the mature crowd comes later. So, but it died off pretty fast. By 9 o'clock, it was pretty well gone.
It was pretty cold too,
yes, though. Yeah. So, and once I think people see not as many people out on the street, because a lot of them were in the buildings warming up.
That's true too.
It looked like it was dying off faster than maybe it actually was. So, and then the Christmas parade the next day is always a big feature when the elves, the kids that get drawn the night before for the elves. Yep. You get to ride on the float.
Yeah, because two of my kids made it.
Yes, yeah.
And they were little.
And of course, they have the singing contest now, which is a much smarter move by Memo. They used to have this fuddy-duddy town officials up there trying to sing Christmas carols.
I remember. I was one of those fuddy-duddies.
I was too, yes. And I used to say to them, what have you got us up there for? People don't come to see us, they come to see the kids.
We're not important.
And so they finally came up with the idea of the singing contest, and that's been a big success. They love that.
A much better idea.
Yes, yeah. I like the placement of the tent this year, too, was they had it down the back of Baxter Park.
Right.
And to me, it seemed to open up the whole park to more people could get and see the lighting.
It was more welcoming, I think, that way.
Yes, yeah.
I'll have to pass that on. We have a memo meeting coming up.
The big problem is, for years and years, Hank Marcel has been running that as well as Medfield Day. He sets up all the lighting and sound, and I always kid Hank. I say, you're the biggest little kid in town.
Yeah, he is.
I said, when those Christmas lights go on, your face just lights up, and he's got the whole thing computerized, so he can change it around at will, but he's getting up there in years, as we all are. So
I know, but he's done such a good job for so long.
Yes, yes.
No question about it.
And he's got a trainee there who I hope will, there'll never be another Hank Marcel, but hopefully he'll be almost as good. And over time will become better.
You can't replace some people.
Yes, yeah.
But I'm sure Hank will choose a good person to follow him. I'm sure he would.
Yes, and as time changes, and as we know the technology changes, whatever they're good at, they may be better than Hank. So, but Hank certainly has been a huge benefit to the town, and I hope people that go to the ceremonies realize he's the one behind it.
Yeah, my grandson Matt just got his driver's license, and he offered to drive me to the supermarket. So he took me to Shaw's, and who did we see but Frances Marcel,
yes,
Hank's wife. And I introduced him to her, and I said, it's her husband that does the Christmas tree lights downtown. My grandson said, really? He was so impressed. He did all those, and we said, we're nodding our head. He was very impressed, and people should be.
Yes, yeah.
I have no idea the amount of work it took him over these years.
Yeah. So, and now we're, I thought it was going to be easier this year because Thanksgiving was early, so there was an extra week to get ready for Christmas, but it seems worse than ever. I don't know, maybe as the years go by, I just don't lose my enthusiasm for shopping.
You're getting old.
Yes, yes. Well, and so many people shop online nowadays anyway, so.
That's what I hear, yeah.
But the traffic these days is getting awful, so that's one of the things we have to take a look at to see if there's anything we can do. But I don't know if you've been to the Walpole Center lately. They're building 372 housing units, I understand, over there. Norwood, I went through Norwood this morning, and there are hundreds of units going up down in Norwood Center. So and then there's over 300 units going up at Glen Ellen. So the traffic's only going to get worse and worse, and it's already bad.
Absolutely.
I don't know what we're going to do. Maybe it won't matter because we'll be sitting in the car because the car's going to drive itself.
Maybe we'll go back to public buses.
Yes, yeah, or there'll probably be more working at home, it'll be forced because of the
That could be
commuting
true.
time. So if it takes you 4 hours to get back and forth to work, that's half a day.
And we don't have many jobs here.
No, not
That's one
since,
thing I wish we could get more of.
not since Corning or Bear or
I
whatever
know.
they're called left town. So
And the state hospital had a lot of employees also.
yes, right.
We did.
But fortunately, the downtown has really made a vast improvement. I think
I think so.
It's no longer called Deadfield, and people from other towns actually come and shop and eat and whatnot at our restaurants and stores. So it's a very good sign. And the shopping mall up where Shaw's is seems to be, with Marshall's.
I hope so. I hope they're doing
Seems to be
well.
doing quite well, yeah. Of course, Blue Moon is a big attraction there, too, so.
Mhm.
So
Any news on a new police chief?
they are interviewing, the screening, I think they had 46 applications. Of course.
46. Oh, my heavens.
Well, of course, it gets out online and people, you could be a chef or a ballet dancer or a construction worker, and you see an ad and you
Police
throw in a
chief.
resume. So, police chief. Well, what the heck?
Wow.
Maybe they'll be looking for someone. So, a lot of them they can throw out right away, and then we don't offer money for people to come and fly in and put up in hotels and
I
serve
know.
meals and that. So that will do away with some. So they usually try to narrow it down to about 6 to 8 candidates that they actually interview, and then select a few from that to go through. They have
select.
something called an assessment center,
Mhm.
and
That's what we did the last time. Yeah.
yes, and that worked very well. Even though what we did a nationwide search and ended up with a guy from our own
I know.
backyard.
Was that fun?
Yes. So we have hired, for those who may have missed it, when I'm leaving in January, the selectmen have hired my assistant, Christine Trierweiler, who, by the way, in March will have been here 20 years, so she's not exactly a rookie. And she's, her background is in planning. She has a master's in city
planning,
planning
yeah.
from, I think, URI, and she's also done all the collective bargaining and the human resources
I've been
work,
on a
so-
lot of committees with her.
Yes,
I
yeah,
have.
very capable, and I'm sure she'll do an excellent job.
And
So-
she's hardworking, no
Yes.
question about it.
and the employees like her. They respect her. More importantly, they respect her.
I think they do.
Yes, yeah,
Because that, remember, we mentioned earlier, that was our big concern when we appointed her 20 years ago.
yes,
Would
yeah,
the town employees respect a woman boss?
yes. And
And it
she's,
didn't take us long to realize, yes, they do.
yes, and she's tough, but she's fair.
Yep, I agree
So,
with you.
I think people will be very satisfied to have finally gotten rid of me and got somebody capable
Oh, they'll
in
be
there.
thrilled to get rid of you, right? How many times did we threaten to fire you over the years? And you'd
Yes.
always say, please.
Oh, no, it's just a second the motion, and you say you don't get a vote. And
No.
you were always the one to make the motion to fire me, by the way.
But it was really good, though, that she's going to get that job, I think.
Yes.
Good choice.
We also have a new building inspector.
Another one.
Yes, and we have a new facilities manager who's incidentally, no big deal, but she's female. And she's also an architect, which
Oh,
is
that's
really a very
handy.
good qualification. So she was assistant in Dedham. She started yesterday,
Who is she?
Monday. You would ask me that. It always takes me a couple of weeks to figure out the names.
This is
so-
a trick.
Yes, yes.
Sorry about that.
But she's everybody that's, she was very good on paper, but she was also very good in the interviews. So
Good.
I'm hoping she's got big shoes to fill for taking over from Jerry McCarty.
Mhm, he did a good job, yep.
Yes, yeah. But she's very experienced. And so, and I think the town will be very happy with her. So we're becoming a female-run town. Our treasurer collector, our accountant, our chief
I know,
assessor,
everybody.
town administrator, facilities manager, all females.
No.
They're not going to get us for sex discrimination unless some male files against them.
People thought it was odd when I was a selectman for so long.
I know.
Some
yeah.
people were not comfortable with a woman up there.
we really haven't had many women.
Well, I had
Does
one
seem to
other
be-
before me, just served one term, Sandy
Yes,
Munsey.
Sandra Munsey, yes.
She only
yeah.
did one term, and then now then of course she moved out of town.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
that's it. All these years, only 2 women have been selectmen.
Yeah. The women seem to gravitate more towards library, school committee, and park and rec, probably because they have children who are participants in those programs, or they're, like you, they're avid readers. I mean, you were on the library
That's why
trustees
my
before.
first elected job in
Yes.
Medfield was a library trustee.
Of course, you go in the libraries nowadays, and there's half as many books.
I know it.
Because they have everything, but they have, 3D model makers and
And Kindles and all the rest of it.
yes, puzzles, chessboards, concerts. It's when we were kids, you didn't say boo in the library or you get thrown
heavens
out. Let alone eat food in there. That would be a
I
capital
can't imagine
crime.
ever even trying to do it when I was a
Yeah.
kid.
And nowadays, it's sort of like a part of being out
It's a
on Main
meeting
Street.
place, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So, but they are looking for library director still. The acting library director, I don't believe is interested, although I understand she's doing an excellent job as acting director. So maybe she'll change her mind and
Maybe.
stay. So, although she was on staff anyway, so I'm sure she'll stay one way or another. So.
I hope so.
So it's been a tough year, and Chris managed to handle the job selections very well. I mean, she was responsible for getting Mo Goulet here, and he's done an excellent job as public works director, taken over from Ken Feeney, who also did an excellent job, but they're very different in style.
Yeah.
But they both worked out well. And hopefully we won't have any snow this winter. It's all going south. So it's their turn. Every 100 years or so they get a turn at it. So.
Yeah. My son in North Carolina, David, who you know, called to tell me about the snow coming, and he said, why do you hear this, Mom? He said, I'm the only one on my block that has a snow shovel. He said his doorbell is ringing all the time.
My brother lives in Virginia Beach, and he was the same
Same
way.
idea?
When they got, not this storm, but a few years ago, he was bragging about how little snow they got. He said they'd only had about 8 inches in the 6 years he had been there. Well, I left on Wednesday, and on Friday they got 9 inches of snow. And he said he was the only one with a snow shovel. He said he had a kid come over and say, I'll shovel your driveway if you let me borrow your snow shovel. He said, I already shoveled the driveway, so, but he let him use it anyway. But so I said, when do they plow the streets? He said, they don't.
Yeah.
I said, what do you mean? He said, they only do the main roads. They don't have enough
That's
equipment.
right, they don't.
So he said they just let it melt.
And they cancel school. But
Yes, they canceled
away.
this. Last year they had, I think, 6 inches, and school was closed for 4 days.
yeah, well, some parts of where David is are 18 inches.
Yes.
But not in his neighborhood, but in some parts he said 18 inches.
Well, being my brother, I love to twist the knife, and I said, oh, well, we had 12 inches, and we had a 2-hour school delay. But we never closed down.
But we spend a fortune on snowplows.
Yes. Well, but so far, I thought I'd never be glad to see the cold weather, but if the cold weather keeps the snow down south, I'm all for it.
I feel bad for them, though.
Yes.
I do, because it
yes.
really limits their life.
Especially after North Carolina had the hurricane
I
this
know.
summer. They're really getting hammered. So I hope nobody from Massachusetts moved down to North Carolina to get away from the weather. So,
Look what happens.
so what else is going on in town?
So you're looking forward to retirement?
Yes.
There you are.
I finally, once I made up my mind, I debated for years whether to retire. I'm way over the limit. In fact, I went to the retirement board this morning. That's why I was down in Norwood. It's down in Canton, so I had to go through Norwood, and I have 50 years and 7 months creditable service. Just 43 years and 10 months in Medfield, and 6 and
Arlington?
half years in Arlington. So I tell everybody I've been working for 10 cents on the dollar for the past 10 years. So But once I made up my mind, I said, you know, there's plenty to do. Things that I've neglected, visiting family and traveling and other things like that. So I'm hoping to be able to do lots of that now. And
I still remember meeting you. I was writing for the local newspaper.
that's how I got the job. I held the door open for you and Stevie.
Back then, the selectmen could ask the newspaper to leave. They didn't have to leave the interviews open. So C.B. Dowd and I got up and left. And as we were leaving, this tall guy with brown hair came in, held the door open for us, and that was you.
Tall, skinny guy.
Oh, you were fairly slim. You were.
Yes.
You're pretty slim. But Stevie said, you know, I like that guy. And I said, I do too. So then we came back and found you got appointed.
Well, Pauline Gouger, who was my first secretary when I came here.
Oh, she was a wonderful friend.
One day she was going through the files and she dug out, Harry Kelleher was chairman of the selectmen when I was hired. And he was also worked in the insurance industry, so he was used to doing background checks. Mm-hmm. So she came across my background check and also Harry's notes. And Harry had 3 criteria for hiring, it used to be called the executive secretary at the time. And one was that you be over 30, 2 that you be married, and 3 that you didn't wear white socks.
You failed all 3.
No, I didn't wear white socks.
I've seen you with white socks on, though.
Well, occasionally, if Lieutenant, you know, if I'm.
But 2 out of 3 isn't bad.
Yes, yeah.
You missed 2 out of 3.
I said the other candidates must have been really bad if I flunked 2 out of 3 criteria and still got the job.
Yeah,
so.
Harry was a good friend of mine, as you know.
Yes.
Very good friend.
And Louise is.
She was in my bridge group.
Yes, yeah.
Good. They were good people.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, they were very good people.
But it's been a great time. I have a lot of people coming up to me in the store thanking me, and I said, well, thank you for putting up with me for all these years, all my rants and raves about state government, and now everybody's starting to sound like me.
And doom and gloom when you come up with talking about the taxes.
That's right, yes. Well, it's, I'd like to say it's kept the taxes down, but it hasn't really, but between inflation and decreases in state aid and whatnot, we're only getting about the same level of state aid we got when 2.5 passed. You know, the state has all the promise of Proposition 2.5 is going to cut property taxes. We now have a greater share of our budgets or spending comes from the property tax. It's gone from like 65 to 67 or 70% now comes from the property tax. All the money went to the cities, where a lot of it was needed, but still you take cities like Boston, Cambridge, and Somerville that are awash in money. They have so much. In fact, I cut out an article I found online. It said that some of the cities are becoming much wealthier at the expense of their suburbs. The suburbs are actually losing compared to the cities in their wealth levels. And you can see that in Boston. You're going to look at all these condos they're building in there for millions of dollars. And
now, somebody told me today that Medfield's number 9 in that list of towns with the highest incomes. That Weston was first, Dover was second, Sherburne was in there. I'm trying to think of the others, but they said Medfield was 9.
Probably Concord. Nantucket, I think, was number 1.
That might have been up top too.
Yeah. Brookline probably was higher.
Yeah, I'm sure Brookline was in there. Yeah. But it was interesting. I didn't realize you were number 9.
Yeah.
Not sure whether that's an asset or not.
We're 23rd highest single-family tax bill. That was the last figure I saw, or it may have changed since then. We were 16th. We dropped to 23rd. And
the percentage going to the school is over 70 now?
It's just about 70% if you throw in, you know, things like that the state doesn't count, like debt on school buildings and, you know, retiree health. Well, they do count retiree health insurance, but that's not part of the school budget. That's pensions for non-teaching personnel. And actually, if you go on the Department of Education, they have the retirement costs for each school district. And I think Medfield's something like $6 or $7 million a year that the state pays for teachers' retirements.
Well, I'm glad the state pays it.
Yes, I know, that would be another. So you add all those things up, and it really. That's why it's interesting when some people say, I pay taxes. I say, well, at 15,000 minimum per child, you're probably getting a very good deal for your
Yeah.
money. So they don't like that, though. So
I just have one grandchild left in the public schools here, but
you do, okay.
yeah, it's eighth grader.
So, well, maybe you'll have another generation starting in a few years.
I'll have to get some of my grandchildren that
To
are
move
married to
back?
move back.
Yes, yeah. You're getting a lot of Southern branch now in
I
your
know.
family, so
And Colorado, one in Colorado married,
yes, yeah.
and one in Georgia married.
You're lucky though that you still have 3 children in
They're property owners here.
Yes, yes, and
Very
one
lucky.
not too far away, Shrewsbury.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
so,
Yeah, I've been luckier than almost everybody I know
yes, yeah,
in life, entire life. I think been very lucky.
yes. You certainly have been. You got 6 kids that turned out with their heads pretty well screwed on.
Pretty well.
So, well, back to town business. We have enough of our own little stories.
Is there anything else going on that we want to report on before we close up?
We are probably scheduled to have our water tower, Mount Nebo water tower, painted either in the spring or the fall,
Okay,
depending
that's
on
a good thing to do. Sure.
when we can get those bids out. One of the things that's going to be of concern is the cost of waste disposal,
Yeah.
because the cost of recycling has gone up
I
about
know.
300%
Isn't that
since
crazy?
China won't accept our.
Well, they're
our-
mad at us.
Yes.
That's
So our
payback.
price, we were scheduled to be $24 a ton for recycled materials, and it's now $60 a ton. And it's scheduled probably, I guess some of the other communities that are not on contract are already at $97 a
Oh,
ton.
geez.
So one of the thoughts is to increase the size of the dump sticker fee. And I know people scream bloody murder at that. A lot of people get very upset, but if we doubled it, it would still be only $1.50 a week, which is a bargain
Yeah, it
price
is. That's a
compared to
pretty
what
good
other
deal,
communities
yeah.
are paying. But you know, it's like, for some reason, the 3 things that get people are water and sewer bills, motor vehicle excise tax, and the dump sticker fee. And the property tax, which is the big whack.
Yeah, it is.
We don't get that many complaints about it, and I think I asked the collector's office about that, and they said that's because over half the people now, their taxes are paid as part of their escrow. They make their monthly escrow payment to the mortgage
Yeah.
company, and the mortgage company actually pays the
takes care of it,
taxes.
sure.
So it's, but one little thing I'll tell you about my career here, when I came, the tax rate was $77 per thousand. The tax
You're
rate. that was
kidding.
No,
Okay.
the tax rate that was just set last week or a couple of weeks ago was $17.87. So what
So
a
you can make
wonderful,
that sound good, can't you?
what a wonderful job I've done. The trouble is, it's the X is going down, but
The value
but
of the
Y-
properties,
but the
whoop.
Y has gone up, so
I
the Z
know.
is higher than ever. So
That's kind of a fun thing to say, though.
yes, yes, yes. But we did take Stan Bergeron, who worked in the assessor's office,
He's a good man.
compiled a tax rate history, and the taxes over the 40 years he had done it had gone up like 820% or something like that. And I said, could you tell me what the average value of a house has gone up in that same time period? And he said, well, that's a lot harder to do, because you have to take a house that has been well maintained but not
I
substantially.
know. That's very hard
improved.
to equate it.
So he found a house somewhere in town that he felt qualified for that, and the assessed value of the house had gone up 1,200%.
Wow.
So even though the taxes have gone up 800%, the value of the house had gone up 1,200%. So, which for someone who's lived in the house a long time doesn't mean much. For the people that are only here a few years and benefit from those rising prices, they've done okay on it.
We had a lot of capital gains when we sold our house after 50 years.
Yes, yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just hope we can still find a way to make it a town welcoming to an average family that's just getting married, have 1 or 2 little kids. I want them to still be able to come here.
Yeah, and you know, the real problem with it in this state is the way we finance education through the property tax. It is wrong, wrong, wrong. It should not be financed through the property tax. You know, all these businesses that say they need properly trained help, why shouldn't they kick in statewide for the cost of education? You know, they say they will in their property tax, but then they get, you know, it's nothing compared to what the value that cities like Boston, Cambridge, Somerville are now getting for assessed value per resident. And many of their children don't go to, they don't have nearly the percentage of children. I think Boston only had like 8% of children in public schools. Because a lot of people won't send their kids to public schools in Boston because of the quality.
Yeah.
And we were running 22, 23% several years ago. I think we're down a bit now. We're probably down about 18%, 19%, because our school enrollment dropped about 500. But
The school enrollment dropped 500?
From peak.
Okay.
Now they say it's going to go back up again
What was
to
the peak year?
3,300.
Do you remember?
I think it was around 2000, or a little after 2000, I think.
Okay, early 2000s. Okay.
But that's the other thing. There was a meeting with the School Building Assistance Authority on the Dale Street project this morning. And
Oh, really?
I saw the superintendent.
I'm interested in that project.
And he said that they've approved going forward with the second step, which is the feasibility study that we appropriated the money for at town meeting. So that will probably take about, I think they have 180 days to complete that. And that does things like exploring sites, exploring the configuration, you know, looking at soils and boring tests and construction costs and maximum size of the facilities, all these crazy things they want you to look at, and that's why it costs $1 million to do.
I'm curious to see what they're going to come up with, though.
Yes, yes.
Spent many hours in that school.
I've heard, the latest thing I heard was that they may, even if they move the Dale Street to Wheelock, they may have to have 2 separate schools, even though they're connected, have separate principals, separate vice principals.
Why?
But I don't know whether that's true or not.
I don't
That's
either.
one of the things the feasibility study, because they said the enrollment for an elementary school would be over their guidelines. I'm saying, why is it that the state makes all these rules and regulations?
And we pay for it.
We pay for it, and then they don't enforce them against themselves, like the open meeting law and the public records law. If they had to comply with that, you know, some of the towns have had to hire a person just to handle the public records requests,
Wow.
because they get some kook that files request after request. They had
Oh,
one
okay,
town,
yeah.
somebody filed over 50 public records requests,
Jeepers.
looking for all kinds of materials, and you know, it gets to be a real burden.
Yeah, yes it does.
And then you turn on the news and you see the legislators saying, we're going to decide this behind closed doors, and the press is standing right there, and they close the door and lock it on them.
Maybe Christine will fix it when she has your job.
There we go.
Don't you
Yes,
think?
That's right.
Put that on
We'll
her
see.
to-do list.
That's right, yes. I see what I couldn't do in 44 years if she could do it
Maybe she
in a
can do the
couple of
first
years.
year. Let's see
There
what
we
happens.
go. Or
Gives her a
maybe I can
challenge, though.
maybe I can join the what's that website they have here, Concerned Citizens of
Oh,
Medfield,
yeah.
and become a gossiper like the rest of
You
them.
could. You could indeed do that. That's kind of fun.
You know, I've never looked at that site.
I haven't looked at it in a long time. I
Yeah,
did it when I
I
was a
did.
selectman, I would.
Yeah,
I
when I
look
found
at
it.
sometimes.
Now, there is patch and things like that that I think have some credibility to them, but I think some of these things are just go beyond the pale. It's the social media stuff that.
It's a new world.
Yes, yes.
It is.
You know what I heard on the news this morning? They said that hackers are finding ways to get into your home security system to disable the cameras and the door locks and
Oh,
everything.
God.
And it said they can get in by getting access to your medical records, to your social security number, to your bank accounts. They can use those to get into your home security
my
system
God.
and disable them. So I said, what will they think of next?
Wow.
So if some of these people would put their knowledge in these subjects to productive use instead of destructive uses, how much better the country would be.
That's something else we'll have Christine do.
Yes. When I had one other suggestion, I noticed the list of people that were getting, there's some award the national government gives every year it's like Citizen of the Year or something. They give 30 or 40 of them out, and they were reading the list of the people that were getting them, and there were athletes and movie stars and rappers and, people that, they're entertainers, basically. And I said, whatever happened to the days when they honored people that, made developments in medical research or space research or technology or things that actually improve your lives? Why aren't those people being recognized? Why is it the celebrities that seem to get all the attention these days? I guess celebrity sells and
I suppose.
achievement doesn't. So.
But you did say our old friend Steve Nolan got an award.
Yes, he did. He's the Citizen Planner of the Year for the MAPC. And he's being honored at a luncheon at Tufts Friday.
You're going to go, I hope?
I hope to,
And
yes.
the selectmen going to go?
No, I don't think so. Mike Marcucci may, I'm not
I
sure.
hope one
if
of
he's
them
in
does.
town, yeah.
I would hope at least one of them.
Well, you
could.
know who's going? There's going to be about 12 people from Medfield, the hospital committee that he was chairman
That's
of.
good, yeah.
They're going, and some of the planning board members are going. So.
But he was chairman of a couple committees. I was on the Affordable Housing Committee. He was chairman for a long time.
Affordable housing.
He was on the Warren
Board of
Committee with me.
He was on the Board of Appeals.
He's on everything.
Yes. He's really.
He's a gem of a
credit
man.
to the
His wife
town,
is a winner also.
Yes. She was chairman of the Energy Committee.
Yeah, they were very good people. They're very dedicated,
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
to the family and to the town. We're going to lose some good ones for that one.
Yes. Yeah. It's a shame that. But you understand with the commute. He works in Boston, commuting. It's a 3-hour job every day.
And the kids are growing.
Yes. Yeah. So. I think you're seeing a lot of that. People, when their children grow, they move in the city. And although I did talk to one couple that moved in, and they said it got to be too expensive because every night you'd look around the kitchen and say, but there are 200 restaurants within a 10-minute walk of here. We haven't tried that one. At the end of the month, you get your credit card bill, and whammo.
I imagine.
So they stayed about a year and then moved out.
Move back, yeah, someplace else. Well, you have anything else you want to add to your events today?
Oh, I think probably I've talked myself till I'm almost blue in the face, so I think probably we ought to wrap it up. We probably well exceeded our half an hour, so.
But you'll definitely come back again while you're still on the job in January. And then you said you're willing to come visit periodically and
come visit
talk on about different subjects.
Yes, that's right.
That'd be good.
We get into the interesting stuff.
Okay, that sounds good. Oh, well, thanks, Mike. Thank you,
Pleasure as
people
always.
at home, for watching Medfield TV. I hope you keep watching. And if you have any ideas for people to be interviewed or be talked to, just send me an email at annmedfield@verizon.net. So once again, thank you for watching Medfield TV, and thanks, Mike Sullivan, for coming back.
Glad to.
Goodbye, everybody.
The preceding was a production of Medfield TV.